Plans have now been approved to pump this polluted water from the Piney Point site deep underground. It's called an injection well. Environmentalists do have concerns about it, but this technology is already being used in places around the state. Let's bring in Fox 13's political editor Craig Patrick, who's looking into this closely for us tonight. Craig, exactly what's involved with something like this?
Well, bottom line, you drill a hole far beneath the aquifer that supplies a majority of the state's drinking water. That's the well, and then you move the affected water down the hole into a containment zone so it doesn't leach into the supply of drinking water. That's the concept, and this technology does in fact exist already and has been used. Environmentalists, though, have expressed some concerns about it because they say that water will not stay in the containment zone. It eventually will seep out, and they're concerned about where it could go from there. Manatee County leaders discussed plans to get rid of this polluted water through deep injection wells long before this leak. And we saw some wavering on the county commission just last week.
And I've moved away from deep well. I'm very concerned about a lot of this right now.
But 5 days later, all the commissioners agreed to approve it.
The board unanimously authorized the use of a deep injection well on county-owned property.
They approved a plan that would treat the water, removing or diluting contaminants before injecting it underground. And the state's DEP secretary embraced this approach, which is already being pursued in other parts of the state. For example, just across the bay, St. Petersburg has used injection wells to dispose of the equivalent of reclaimed water. But a closer comparison may be the deep water injection well plans in South Florida. Lake Okeechobee is also contaminated with high levels of nutrients. And our government pumps the polluted water into South Florida rivers to prevent the polluted lake's dike from collapsing. Sort of like the way the government is pumping polluted water into Tampa Bay now to prevent the Piney Point gypsum stacks from collapsing. By approving plans for injection well technology, Manatee County is pursuing the same strategy as the South Florida Water Management District is with Lake Okeechobee. While the plan is to pump the polluted water far below our supply of drinking water, environmentalists are concerned it could still mix into the water table. And as we found in this interview, South Florida water managers would not guarantee it wouldn't. Can you guarantee there would not be any break or leak in these wells so that this water could leach into our water supply?
What I can tell you is that this type of technology has been around for a very long period of time.
Offshore drilling has also been around for a very long time, and as we saw with the BP disaster, it can fail. Do you know for sure you couldn't have a break or a leak that could cause this to seep into the aquifer?
Well, what I can tell you is that the technology exists for these types of wells to move water into the boulder zone.
Environmentalists also say injecting the water that deep also limits our ability to monitor and control it after we drop it that deep. Supporters say it's safer than other alternatives, especially if you treat the contaminated water before injecting it. And the options, frankly, are limited. They include efforts to try to evaporate the water, but what we're living through now shows the challenge and the difficulty with that. We also have plans and have seen ways to release it in controlled amounts, but again, that also has drawbacks. Also, the state in 2003 put it on barges and then sprayed it out into the Gulf of Mexico. That too had controversy. There also are plans to store at least some of it, up to 150 million gallons, in portable storage containers. There also are plans conceivably to ship some of this to other states, conceivably Louisiana, that may be willing to accept some of this as well. So there are a lot of options, but there are limits as well, and that's why Manatee County is moving in the direction it is.
I know it's not going to be cheap, but at times like this, we don't really think about the cost much because we have to take care of this for sure. But any idea what we're looking at in terms of a bill and a timeline, how long it will take?
Well, for this particular injection well, the projected costs are somewhere between $8 to $12 million. In terms of the time frame, it's not instant. For example, that interview we just did, we showed you, was from 2018. That was for South Florida. It's 3 years later, and they still have not finalized that plan for the injection wells north of Lake Okeechobee. In this case, they're saying 1 to 3 years, and they think it's conceivable to move forward and have that injection well ready, conceivably within a year.
Well, let's hope it works for sure and doesn't leak for sure. Craig Patrick with us. Craig, thanks.